Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second episode. So today we have Mr. Mustafa Muchhala, and from the UK. He's the one of the best, I would say, the faculty for ACCA, CIMA, and many other best professional courses. So we would like to hear more about the professional courses from you, and rather than me to give introduction, so over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dilpreet, for inviting me on this podcast. I'm a qualified chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, first of all, where I studied in Mumbai, and then when I moved to the UK, I also qualified as from CIMA. As a Chartered Global Management Accountant, or CGMA as the designation is now, and lived in the UK for now over 30 years. And I've worked in industry to start off with, and then also in professional training and education as well, in the education space. So training on, the CIMA and the ACCA, ICAW, ICAS, other professional qualifications in the UK. So that's a brief background about myself.
That is really fantastic. So you have done you're more towards studies, and so is that been your aim to make awareness about these courses, and what motivated you to be the faculty?
While I was qualifying and studying to be the CIMA qualification, because when I went to the UK about 30 years ago, the chartered accountancy qualification, the Indian one, was not actually recognized, in the UK. So you had to do a full other qualification. Now there is a memorandum of understanding between, the ICAI and, institutes in the UK as well. So you don't have to do all of the, exams and things like that. You get exemptions and stuff like that. But yeah, I worked in industry for quite a while, and then I was interested in training, so I moved into that space.
Wonderful. And so we should not compare. And so what made you if you compare like ICAI of India and CIMA and ACCA, so how you compare all of them, and what is the difficulty level for all these courses that you have faced so far?
Yeah. So, each course has its challenge, right? None of them you can say are easy, because to be a qualified chartered accountant, right, you have to put in the work, right? And you are working to be a professional. You need to have a good not only knowledge but application of that knowledge as well. And all these qualifications allow you to do that. Now, the ICAI obviously is also quite a rigorous qualification, but it's more towards those seeking to practice, work in audit, etc. All right, and in that space. Whereas the CIMA or ACCA, shall we say, is also the UK equivalent, you would say, of doing a qualification where you can practice, you can work in audit, but you can work in corporate environment as well. However, CIMA or CIMA, they call it, is basically more geared towards sort of a corporate environment, and you're training to be a commercial accountant as opposed to be a financial accountant. So commercial accountant who actually, looks at strategy, looks at how to take the business forward, looks at forward thinking, planning, budgeting, forecasting, all of those kind of things, which is what the, transformation these days of how the finance function is transforming with all the, technology and the AI that is all coming in these days. It's more about that, right? Whereas, the financial accounting qualifications also look at those things as to how, they can use technology and AI to actually, do the audit and, do all the accounting, etc. But it is more focused towards, practice, right? Or being in or corporates in like a finance department.
Okay, so what I understood, CIMA more about business acumen skills, and ACCA and CA of India is more towards technicals. Okay,
so let me give you a simple example. You wouldn't study IFRSs in detail, right? If you were doing CIMA, right? Whereas if you're doing ACCA or the chartered accounting, you would actually go into the detail of how to account, how to disclose stuff in the financial statements, etc.
That's wonderful, actually. And I have seen so many students, they mix like BCom with ACCA and BCom with
Mhm.
CIMA. They mix all together. So,
Mhm.
and what is your opinion and what is your advice to those students who are doing, and what is the right direction for them based on now how the industry is turning around, how it's moving? So, what is your
Yeah.
opinion for that? That
Uh, I think it's not a bad idea to do, a professional qualification alongside a degree that you might be pursuing. However, I think it's a good idea to start that maybe in the second year, right? Or even so that you in the second year you're trying to you've sort of kind of warmed up to the college that you are attending to do your BCom or whatever or finance
correct.
degree, and then maybe you can do a little bit of that, yeah, and then pursue it. Maybe in the third year, you might not actually do it as much, right?
Perfect.
Because you're more focused on getting through the degree part, and then you can complete it right after the degree is over. Because I find that students who actually are doing TYBCom and at the same time studying for say ACCA or CIMA or whatever, right? I find it a struggle to cope with both of those. The other thing is that with ACCA and with CIMA, it is very important to get practical experience alongside your study. It's not just about giving the exams. If you don't get the
Perfect.
practical experience, you are not going to be able to get the letters behind your name, and therefore there is no point. So therefore, if you finish your BCom, and then you're working in that space and you're studying at the same time, you end up with a better qualification and the qualification you get, but at the same time, you're in a better position to seek better jobs in the future as well.
As regarding the job, let's discuss how the jobs
Mhm.
portal is in for CIMA
Mhm.
and for ACCA. And there
Mhm.
has been a lot of discussion in Indian market for specifically for CIMA that less jobs are there, opportunities are there for that, and people through any other courses they have to do any other courses, but solely CIMA does not help them. How your encounter for that question for concern for all these students?
So it's absolutely right because you need to have a good background to be able to do that. Obviously, it's a more a UK-based qualification, and a lot of the multinationals and even the foreign, sort of companies that have been based in India, right, will want to recruit, students who have done either ACC or even CIMA, right, in roles in finance or in roles in as a commercial financial analyst, etc. Those kind of roles is where you should be able to find the jobs if you have that qualification. The difficulty is that if you just do CIMA, right, then you should be working alongside while you're studying. Then you will be in a better position. So
Okay.
ideally, you want to find someone who, an employer who actually sponsors you to actually study the CIMA or the ACCA or, whatever finance qualification, and then you get the work experience along with it. So
Okay.
it might take a little longer to finish it because because you got the work as well, you might not be able to do as many papers in every sitting, but that's absolutely fine because that work experience is giving you a better understanding of various concepts and ideas, which you can then apply and use when you're even studying about them.
When I was also studying, it's completely is a whole package of MBA and finance and provide the business acumen skills. Likewise with ACCA, my peer group has also started ACCA solely. They also have to do any other degrees. So, what is your opinion for that? Why solely one degree cannot provide you the good platform for a work experience?
Right. I think the issue is it's not that it doesn't one degree cannot provide. It can provide, but I think it is the awareness of that amongst employers, right, may be a little bit of an issue, right? That maybe sometimes I've found that some employers right, might not even know what the CIMA or the ACCA qualification is that you're studying. Yeah. Not necessarily all employers know. I think the institutes are working quite hard, right, to actually, promote the qualification and generate this awareness, right? And so I think that is one of the challenges. And I think, if once we overcome those challenges, then these should become common qualifications that should appear in newspaper advertisements or wherever you see job advertisements, even it's on a
Mhm.
website or a newspaper, would say that, you don't just want an, ICAI qualified, but you want an ACCA or a CIMA qualified accountant or any other
Yes.
qualification. And that's where the problem is, because they, at the moment, right, the jobs are not saying that we want someone who is CIMA qualified or ACCA qualified. Yeah. And I think it's the recruiters and the employers, right, where the awareness needs to be created that these are qualifications which add much, much more value to their organizations, right? Which they should employ students or even fully qualified, members of these institutes, right, in their organizations. So
This
the
is
awareness is the issue, that is the main
okay.
thing.
Okay, so
Um,
that is on the hand of all the organization of ACCA and CIMA
Correct,
that they have to
correct.
create
And they
their
are doing a
marketing
lot.
and
They're doing a lot, to actually generate the awareness as well. But it takes time, to generate the
true.
awareness. But if you go to,
Yes.
say, for example, if you go to the big four, right, firms, they will know what ACCA and CIMA, etc. are. Yeah. If you go to some larger, maybe purely Indian-based organizations, the finance people in there may or may not know about ACCA or CIMA, etc. And therefore, they might be looking for Indian qualified chartered accountants as opposed to, or just degree professionals, and they might not be looking for those people. So
Sometimes
it's the
their job
awareness.
requirement, yeah. Sometimes
Yeah,
even their
yeah,
job requirement is the same. For example, if they require for the Indian practice, so they will hire for the Indian CA because
correct.
they have studied about the entire Indian taxation
Tax
system.
system.
Of course. So, sir, my next question: direction to the students, and apart from the degrees, what else they can focus on, like the way our emerging trend for the AI, and for many other aspects. Even I believe Python will might become a base thing for us.
Mhm,
And I think in the USA or the UK is focusing more towards Python, and many European countries as well. So
mhm.
they are merging, even in the CIMA, I've seen they are providing the courses, they are like paid courses that we have to pay for the Python course. And so do you think that it is now gonna become mandatory in after 3 years to do Python and or any other AI tools or any other courses or like thing?
I don't think it's going to become mandatory, because
Hmm?
these institutes don't are not going to say that, oh, compulsory you'll have to do. They will introduce, gradually they will introduce, and they have already introduced, the new technologies into their syllabuses. So you're starting to study, but you're not actually going to be, as accountants, we are not going to sit there and do the coding, right?
Okay,
The accountant's job, right, is going to change dramatically with all the finance transformation that is happening. So accountants are no longer, kind of bean counters, or, sitting there writing the accounts, or, preparing balance sheets, etc. Yeah. Systems are doing all that. Yeah. So what do you need accountants for? You need accountants to actually tell the story and communicate the story behind the numbers. If you are able to communicate that story behind the numbers well, yeah, and that adds value to the organization. How are you going to take that business forward? Yeah, because
that's
numbers anybody
true.
can do. Yeah, and it's that ability to communicate is what these qualifications are getting you to do. So, for example, in the CIMA qualification, you have the case studies. The case studies, are there so that they are testing your ability to communicate the knowledge about the concepts, right, without actually doing the numbers. Yeah, and I think it's that ability to do that is what adds more value to the organization. Yeah.
That's
And
true.
therefore, if you're coming back to your question, it is going to be very important for, those who are students and those who are members as well, and accountants who are qualified accountants as well, to keep up to date with the growing technologies, right? Whether it is machine learning, whether it is AI, whether it is but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to know how to do Python,
Okay.
right? If they're interested, they can do and go and learn the coding. Yeah. But otherwise, they need to be able to use, right? So how effectively can you use, say, for example, an open AI like a chat GPT kind of platform, right? To
Mhm.
actually enhance and make you work smarter. And if you are able
That's
to
true.
do that, yeah, and you are able to, provide that appropriate information, because these AI tools that are there are also learning. They're self-learning, they're tools. The more you use them, the better they get. So at the moment, none of them are perfect. So if you generate a report using, say, Chat GPT, it won't be perfect. Yeah. You still have to
Yes.
actually go through it, tweak it, make it to, relevant to your needs, etc. But it makes you do it faster. So the whole idea
Yes.
is to be smarter in terms of how you actually work, right? And how you provide the value to that organization. So yes, I would
Indeed.
say, to answer your question, is it is very important to keep up to date with the emerging technologies, right? And if one is interested in doing the coding, one can do it, but knowing how these technologies can help and what you can do. So, for example, just a simple example could be using Power BI in Excel, right?
Yes.
Being able to use it, you don't need to know how it is how it works behind the scenes, but you need to be able to see how can I actually use it to generate better reports, to generate better dashboards, etc., provide more value in terms of the information that the organization or the managers or the board needs. Yeah, and that's the key thing.
Yes, that is true. Whenever balance sheet comes in front of us and we understand from where it has the each and every number has come from, the transaction behind it. My suggestion is everyone should learn Power BI as a mandatory thing so that we can be, as accountants, can be the cutting edge in the industry. What is the course,
Absolutely.
sir? There.
There are specific financial modeling courses, but you should look at the financial modeling courses that it should cover Power BI, right?
Okay.
And not just cover Excel. But I think
Hmm.
for these financial modeling courses, these are at the higher level, at the advanced level. So a good understanding of Excel is required, is mandatory before you actually go into that course. So you can't go into that course if you're not using Excel regularly as such. Yeah, you may not be an
Okay.
expert at it, but you should be able to use Excel and are comfortable with using Excel. So I think that
So
is the
that.
first step. If a student doesn't know or is not using Excel as much, right? Then before they hop onto Power BI, it's like trying to climb the fifth step of the ladder before going into the first step. So you can't do that.
Actually, so apart from one ACIMA and ACC, of course, what other courses you recommend for the students to go ahead?
Um, in terms of the obviously these are professional qualifications, right? From a finance point of view, if they want to work in banking, then I would recommend that they go for the CFA qualification, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst, which is a US based qualification, which is a good one to pursue in banking and financial services if you want to work in the area. So I think the choosing of the qualification should depend on what your end goal is. So first you got to
Okay.
think about my end goal. What is my end goal? I want to work in practice. Do I want to work as a commercial in like in a multinational or in a large organization? Do I want to work in banking financial services? And then choose the qualification that you should go for.
I
And
think you being as you have faced so many students as being a
mhm.
faculty. So, and what like how was has been your experience and how you have guided them? And can you tell some few stories about your students?
Yeah, I'll start with a story about myself only, first of all, like
Okay.
before going to students. Is that, I was a qualified chartered accountant from India before I actually even went to the UK. And when I went to the UK, I knew that at that time, about 30 years ago, the Indian chartered accountancy qualification was not recognized there. So I had to do something else, right? And therefore, I had to choose another qualification to do. And the way I looked at it is that I'm already qualified as a chartered accountant here. A debit in
Mhm.
India and a credit in India is the same as a debit and a credit in the UK. It doesn't change, right? That stays. What you need to look at is what additional stuff do I learn by picking up another qualification. And so the reason I chose CIMA was because it was a management accounting qualification, which actually supplemented quite nicely the financial accounting side of things, right? And therefore, it enhanced the portfolio of what you actually know. Yeah. And that's what you have to
Yes.
think about, and where you want to go. And then the second thing is that what you want to actually do and achieve, and knowing your end goal is actually very important. Also, I think I find that other story, I mean, students, yes, they follow the herd, they follow their friends, they follow also advice from other, mentors who they might see quite, highly as well, especially people who are in their families, right? Who are qualified accountants or,
Yes.
and they might give them advice, which is not wrong, yeah, but they've got to look at themselves first and think, what do I want to do? Yeah. And if you
Yes.
actually think about what you want to do, then you make up your mind and you follow that road, and then you are much more you succeed more easily. Yeah, correct.
And because I understand being a faculty is quite not an easy task, and
Mhm.
it's not only your task might not be just to teach. I believe that your task is to motivate them, and so that they can pass the exam and can have the good career opportunity. So
Mhm.
this is how the importance of one faculty is, what I believe that. And I also face that you face so many students questions, so many questions that you face. Even sometimes you have to put on the spot, like what kind
Mhm.
of like challenges question. Sometimes like it might be challenging for you. So do you have like how it has been for you, and what kind of students that you have faced so far, like.
Yes, yes, of course. There are many students who have come to me who, come to the UK to study as well. Teach a lot of the international students who come to the UK to study, whether they're doing ACCA, whether they're doing CFA or CIMA, etc. And the challenging part for them actually has been not the fact that they've chosen that qualification is fine, but basically how are they going to actually take that career forward, right? And what are they going to
Hmm.
do post the qualification? Yeah. And
Yes.
so, obviously, if they're doing two or three qualifications, I will always tell them that to not do too much. Yeah, only take on what you can chew, rather than have do three or four different things at the same time, because it's difficult to juggle all those things. You're in a new country. You are, sort of getting used to that the country and the ways of working in that country. You're studying. You're on your you've left, your families are back home, etc. So it's more challenging than when you have too much to do as well, and then you can't
Hmm.
focus on achieving at least even one thing. Everything is left half half half, and that doesn't
Absolutely.
help. So once you choose a qualification, you have to pursue it to the end. You can't halfway go through, say, ACCA, and say, no, now I want to swap to CIMA, right? Or I want to swap somewhere else. That then doesn't work. You've lost those years, of your life. Yeah. So it's really
Actually.
think about what you do, and that's my advice I give them all the time, that take one and follow it through, and what is your end goal again, that's what you want to achieve, then that's what you should go for. And then yes, it is, also it is going to be a challenge to find a job. Yeah, in this moving world that we are in, I think finding a job after you do the qualification is going to be a challenge. And the reason it's going to be a challenge is because of all the technology that's coming around us. A lot of the
Hmm.
work is being automated. Yeah. And therefore, unless you upskill yourself, which is what within the CIMA terminology, they say, you have to unlearn, right? And you have to relearn. Yeah. So basically, it's a case of knowing all these new things and technologies and other things that are coming up, being aware of them, even if you don't are not an expert at them, right?
Actually.
Help you to actually get your next job. And the next job is going to be challenging because the employer will expect you to have some experience, some knowledge, etc., in these technologies. And if you don't have that knowledge, then you're going to be staying behind. So, that knowledge can be gained not just by attending courses. You can have gained the knowledge by, going through lots of, there's lots out there on the internet. Yeah. Whether
Understood.
you YouTube videos and learn, whether you watch, other social media, posts or articles, podcasts, etc., and learn. Yeah. Uh, it helps in those ways to be well, aware, right? Even if you're not an expert at these things.
Great, sir. So, what is your bottom line for this for the students and give the good message for the students?
I would say that, whichever, first of all, I would say that, think carefully about what you want to achieve, right? Before you, and understand the differences between the different finance qualifications before you actually launch into one of them. And because you know that when you launch into them, you've got to go through that qualification to the end. So you should know, right from the start, how many papers you're going to have to do, how long it's going to take. You should have a plan in place in terms of, I'm going to do 4 papers this year, 4 papers next, whereby by 2027 I should be qualified, or whatever it might be. All those things you should have planned for before you even launch into the qualification, and invest all your time and money, etc., in those things, and then pursue it, right? Also think about what you're going to be, what sort of job opportunities that qualification gets you. So you would look at it currently and say, okay, if somebody is ACCA qualified or CIMA qualified, right, where are they working? What sort of roles are they doing? Yeah. Are you interested in those kind of roles? Obviously, by the time you qualify in 3 years' time, those roles will have changed, right? And things will have changed, but they will have changed for the better. And therefore, you will hopefully be moving in that direction, and will embrace that change that is there. You know.
That's true.
And I think that's the important thing to bear in mind. And then you will succeed. It'll take time, but you will get there in the end.
Yes, that's true.
You have to just
And
pursue that. That's it.
and along with one degree, one should also pursue any one add-on skills so that they can keep themselves upgraded. Like as
Right.
we have,
Yeah.
both have discussed about learning Excel, which is because one sole
Yeah.
degree will not help at all for any student right now. They cannot
Absolutely.
be dependent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, gone are those days like when we were said, do CA, do this course, and life is sorted. Nothing like that.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I would say that, it's not just Excel, right? Maybe you take Excel and do Power BI. You could move into looking at, how companies deal with the cyber risk and cyber security. That's another
Point.
area they can look at. They can
Good.
look at,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
how blockchain technology is going to change the world, and
Yes.
how the auditing is going to change. So there are various new things that you can look into. And you have to have a good awareness of all of these things, but you might, you know get interested in one of those things and then pursue that.
And alongside, that should match with our current role and current degree, current background, which they
Yes,
are
of
upgrading.
course,
Yes.
of
Yes.
course. Yeah, in
Yes.
terms of what you want. Yeah.
All right. So, sir, it was really nice connecting with you today. And we had lots of insights for students to watch this episode. And we will be doing many other episodes, same like this, on particularly on many courses and that you have been studying and you've been teaching. And we will be looking forward to take ahead.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I hope your students find this episode useful
Of
as well.
course.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank
Take care.
you too, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.